Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Mid Morning. We've all heard the sayings about buying a house. Home is the keystone to wealth. Real estate is a solid investment. These things can be true, but some studies show that's not always the case. I recently caught up with Dr. Ken Johnson, the Christy Kirkland Walker Chair of Real Estate and Professor of Finance at the Ole Miss School of Business Administration. He's a real estate economist and tells us why renting and investing can also lead to wealth. All right, joining me now is Ken Johnson with the Ole Miss School of Business Administration. And Ken, thank you for joining us today talking about home ownership and building your wealth. And for a long time, I feel like all we heard was the American dream was to buy a house and continue to save toward retirement. And maybe that school of thought is changing.
It is, Joey. So we have heard forever, why rent when you can own? Don't throw your money away on rent. Home ownership is the best path to creating wealth. And so that brought us to question this. About 20 plus years ago, we started looking at this. And so the shocker is that renting and reinvesting into a portfolio of stocks and bonds, that money that you would have, if you would have bought and you'd have taken that other money that you would have spent on maintenance, down payment, taxes, insurance, and investing that, you actually outperform ownership. It's not a tremendous overperformance, but on average, across about 40 years of data, renting and reinvesting will create more wealth than owning and building equity. That said, renting and not reinvesting is wealth destroying.
And so I think about this, and immediately whenever I saw this study, I thought about home insurance. And I, like many Americans, was hit with sticker shock when it came time to renew my homeowner's policy. And you think about the amount of home ownership or home insurance that you pay each year, and over the lifespan of a mortgage, it really does add up and can eat into the wealth that you're trying to save for maybe retirement.
The reinsurance rates are up. Fires in California affect things, hurricanes in Florida, but so do catastrophes in other parts of the world. The reinsurance rates are higher. That's probably what you're seeing. The increase in our rates right now is what we're feeling. But yes, if you capitalize that into some dollar amount, it's eating up a lot into what what you could pay for a mortgage. That's another thing in favor of this renting and reinvesting. You would take that money and be applying that towards some form of an investment.
And when you talk about investment, what exactly do you mean with that?
Our study looked at how do people invest? And so we looked at basic, just the Super Saver CD, all the way up to a portfolio mix of stocks and bonds with a traditional 60-40 split between equity and debt ownership. And so some of this gets a little complex, but you could essentially go out and get the year CD, which will be very close to the risk-free rate, and you will still outperform owning and building equity on average. Again, it's not a tremendous outperformance, but it's significantly different, and people should consider this. And also, when you're ready to move, leaving a home is much more difficult in terms of pricing and cost than it is getting out of a lease and moving from Columbus to Memphis or wherever you may be going. So there's a cost to this anchoring when you do own a home. That said, if you worry that you might not have that monthly monastic discipline to sit down and reinvest every month, home ownership still creates a lot of wealth. It really does. So between the three choices, just do one of the two. That is, either you rent and reinvest or you own and build equity. Don't just rent and throw the difference away on consumption.
And let me ask you, how do you see this playing out kind of over the next couple of years, 5, 10 years from now?
When you invest in home ownership, it's something more than just a financial return. There are things that you appreciate, the amenities in your home, the size, the location. You want your kids to go to the right school. All of this comes together, and yes, we're going to see a lower percentage of home ownership, but I don't foresee any time in the next 20 to 30 years that you're ever going to see renting be the dominant form of what we would call tenancy, how people are going to live. It's still going to be home ownership because it does provide both that investment vehicle and you get to customize it and you get to enjoy it, you get to consume it. So we're not going to become a renter's nation, but I think a lot of younger people will probably rent longer. And hopefully people will be convinced that when they are renting, they need to be saving at the same time.
And if you were going to give someone advice who was, let's say they want to buy that home, and you were going to give them advice about whether it is a maintenance insurance type policy, whether it was landscaping, keeping up on this appliances or that. Maybe what is the one singular most important thing you can do for your future if you were to buy a home?
Sure. So this is a little bit outside of our current realm or area of research, but ironically, I've done some work in this area. And quite honestly, people buy what they can see. So you want to keep your home looking really nice. You want the nice landscaped yard. You get premiums for this when you're selling. Nice landscaping, a nice interior, up to date. Don't have items in your home that are either dated or not working. That's not good for when you're selling. People hate uncertainty when they buy anything, especially a home. I think of when I was actually in practice as a broker, this is 25 plus years ago, that an example I would see would I would explain to someone that maybe a home needed a new roof and it might cost X amount of money. And their response almost universally was, well, let's take off more than that just in case. So you want your house up to date and looking really good to maximize that dollar return in terms of home ownership.
All right, some very good words of wisdom there from Ken Johnson. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your insight with our viewers.
Thank you, Joy. I appreciate it very much. Anytime.
All right, we'll be right back after this. Welcome back, everyone. Artificial intelligence is part of the future, but its evolution has positives and negatives. A new exhibit at the Museum of Idaho explores the good and bad of AI. Noah Farley has a preview.
When some people think about artificial intelligence, it brings to mind science fiction movies with robots rising to take over the world. And while AI can be used in robotics, it's used for so much more. To put it simply,
AI is the attempt by humans to create machines that behave like humans.
we see artificial intelligence every day in things like Siri and Alexa, to video games, to motion capture.
I can make a movement and then it will transfer onto an animated character. It could even transfer onto a real person's face as well.
The exhibit teaches people about the incredible uses of AI and the potential dangers of going too far with it. For example, AI can be used to process huge amounts of data to make new discoveries.
Things like creating new drugs for medical treatment, analyzing hundreds, if not millions, of chemicals and trying to come up with new forms of treatment that would take humans months, if not years, to do.
But AI can also be used to make deepfakes, pictures that look realistic but are actually fake. You might have seen these pictures before. These are made by artificial intelligence. While AI can be used to help humankind,
In my opinion, AI needs to be treated a lot like nuclear power, where it has benefits, but there are guardrails and regulations that keep the bad elements from being used.
there are many more facets to AI, both good and bad. You can learn more about them by visiting the exhibit.
Google has updated its AI ethics policy, and it removes a promise to not use the technology to pursue weapons and surveillance. In a previous version of the principles seen by CNN on the Internet Archive Wayback Machine, the company included applications it won't pursue. One of those, weapons or other technology intended to injure people. Another, technology used to surveil beyond international norms. That language is now gone from the updated policy page. Google first published its AI principles in 2018, years before the technology became almost ubiquitous. This update is a sharp reversal in values from those originally published principles. The Grand Canyon took millions of years to form, but new research suggests two Grand Canyon-sized valleys on the moon, well, they formed just within 10 minutes. Scientists say it happened about 3.8 billion years ago. The massive canyons are hidden on the far side of the moon near the lunar South Pole, where NASA's Artemis 3 mission aims to land humans late next year. The lunar canyons are part of the larger impact basin. That's where an as yet unidentified object slammed into the moon billions of years ago. According to a study published Tuesday in the journal Nature Communications, the impact likely also led to the creation of the canyons. On to job news on Earth. U.S. private sector job growth surged last month. That's according to the latest data from payroll company ADP. Private sector employment rose by roughly 183,000 jobs. That was in January, beating expectation. It marks a slightly faster pace of hiring compared to December. January's job gains were attributed to businesses in the service sector, especially those in trade and transportation, as well as leisure and hospitality. ADP's tabulations are sometimes seen as a proxy for overall hiring, but they don't always correlate with the government's monthly jobs report. The Trump administration is planning widespread layoffs among the federal workforce soon. The move will leave employees who don't accept a deferred resignation offer at the risk of losing their jobs. Layoffs could begin as soon as Thursday's deadline set for workers to accept the resignation package. It allows them to leave voluntarily and be paid through September 30th, but not to have to continue working. Some federal employees are not eligible for the deferred retirement package, including postal workers, military personnel, and those with jobs tied to immigration enforcement and national security. Uncertainty over tariffs could lead to fewer interest rate cuts this year. Morgan Stanley now forecasting only one rate cut for all of 2025 at the Federal Reserve's June meeting instead of two cuts that were expected before this week. In a note to clients Tuesday, the Wall Street Bank blamed the volatile trade environment. President Donald Trump hit China with tariffs this week, but paused planned tariffs on Mexico and Canada for a month. The next Fed meeting will be held in March. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Mississippi lawmakers continue to debate mobile sports betting as the countdown to Super Bowl 59 continues. And the excitement is building. Fans are hoping their luck is also on the rise, with sports betting continuing to surge in popularity ahead of Sunday's big game. Gary Baumgarten takes a closer look at the action of sports betting.
Football's biggest night is also one of the top betting events of the year, with officials at the American Gaming Association expecting a record number of legal wagers on Super Bowl 59.
And that number for the game on Sunday is $1.39 billion.
Industry experts say the numbers could be even higher if they account for gambling between friends and family like Super Bowl squares.
Look, that is a form of illegal gambling, but nobody's going to knock on your door and slap you on the wrist for doing that. Last year, we estimated that amount north of $20 billion when you include all types of wagers.
And there certainly won't be a lack of action to bet on. It's the second time the Kansas City Chiefs will face the Philadelphia Eagles during a Super Bowl. The Chiefs are also going for their third straight Super Bowl win.
I think Chiefs fatigue does not necessarily mean betting fatigue. You've got a really exciting matchup.
Sports betting is live and legal in 38 states, plus Washington, D.C.
Right now, today, 3 out of every 4 bets placed in this country are now legal bets.
Officials stress the importance of using legal operators and warn how to spot illegal prop bets.
Legal sportsbook operators only offer prop bets on things that happen on the field. Things that happen off the field, if you find yourself in an app and you're betting on something that's happening off the field, you're probably in an illegal setting.
Kickoff is scheduled for 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time this Sunday at Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. You could catch all the action here on Fox. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
Well, at least on our sister station, Fox 4, the Mississippi House of Representatives passed a mobile sports betting bill this week. Mobile sports betting is legal in 30 states and Washington, D.C., and that coming from the American Gaming Association. Well, the day after the Super Bowl, you can recover from your late night with a free coffee from Starbucks. How about that? Starbucks says it is offering 1 free tall, hot, or iced brewed coffee to its reward members anytime on Monday. If you aren't a rewards member yet, you can sign up Monday and still get a freebie. The move comes as the company rebrands after disappointing sales last quarter. Last week, Starbucks announced it will now be known as Starbucks Coffee Company, an attempt to bring back a coffee house vibe. Milk and sweetener stations will return, in addition to free refills on some orders. All right, we'll be back.
A new system that turns one of the planet's most harmful greenhouse gases into climate-saving products. I'm Tina Kraus with the breakthrough technology.
Scientists say cutting methane emissions is key to saving the planet, but what about the big industries that aren't readily able to curb their production of harmful greenhouse gas? Well, a British company says it has the answer: turn methane into something else. Tina Kraus has the story.
Methane is a menace to the planet, an invisible gas scientists say warms Earth much faster than carbon dioxide.
It comes from landfill sites, from sewage treatment facilities, from farms, and from oil and gas operations and pipelines.
A British tech company set out to tackle this climate change challenge by giving methane a makeover.
The magic happens in here.
The magic happens in here.
Levidian Chief Executive John Hartley says this patented loop system uses microwave energy to split methane molecules, capturing hydrogen for clean fuel and carbon in the form of graphene, the world's thinnest and strongest material.
So this is a cube of graphene that we've extracted from methane gas.
A self-described graphene geek.
It's such an exciting time to be involved in graphene. It's awesome.
Dr. Ellie Galanis and her team are busy using it to boost the durability of everyday products.
So when you put graphene into the tire tread, you can make it stronger, you can make it last longer, and you can make it more fuel efficient.
Scientists also tried it in concrete.
Without graphene, it tends to crumble a lot more easily, but with graphene, it's much stronger.
And they're adding it to medical gloves.
You know, when surgeons do the snap test, they're trying to check if it will break, and that doesn't happen when you add graphene in. It makes them much stronger and more puncture resistant.
Researchers in England only discovered graphene 20 years ago, and Levidian sees years of growth ahead for its potential applications.
The clothes that you wear might have graphene in them so that they're more sustainable.
Engineers say it feels good knowing a little bit of black can help create a greener future. Tina Kraus, CBS News, Cambridge, England.
Interesting stuff there. Scientists say graphene also helps to boost battery life in electric vehicles. Levidian says its loop system has now reached the U.S., with a company in Georgia using it to reduce its carbon footprint. Well, Nissan says it is still in discussions with Honda despite reports the two car makers are set to scrap merger talks. The two Japanese companies announced in December they would conduct negotiations for six months, that is, on a possible merger. The deal would create the world's third largest automaker and give them more resources to compete with a growing threat from Chinese car makers. In a statement on its website, Nissan said, "Our company has withdrawn the basic agreement for the merger with Honda." But Nissan also added, "Honda and our company are in the stage of advancing various discussions, and we plan to establish a direction and make an announcement around mid-February." Scientists are turning to space to track tiny creatures known as krill in the Antarctic. These shrimp-like animals are vital to marine life and climate regulation. Cesar Zand has more.
Tiny but mighty. Antarctic krill are dubbed superheroes of the Southern Ocean. Only a few centimeters long, these tiny creatures are a powerhouse, crucial to our planet's ecosystem. They're a primary food source for whales and penguins, and without them, entire food chains could collapse. But krill do more than just feed marine life. They play a key role in combating global warming. They absorb as much carbon dioxide each year as hundreds of millions of cars emit, locking it away in the deep oceans for decades. But rising sea temperatures and overfishing are putting them at risk. In a bid to protect krill, scientists have launched an ambitious space mission to track them from orbit.
But the great thing about satellite data is that you can get coverage of the entire Southern Ocean and Antarctica, so it's quite powerful for understanding better their spatial distributions in Antarctica.
Satellites detect krill swarms by the way they tint the ocean's surface, a potentially powerful tool for safeguarding this vital species. Sahar Zand, CBS News, London.
We'll be right back to wrap things up. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you have a great day.